Hello everyone, and welcome back for another episode of the Microsoft Today podcast. My name is Brad Grew, and this episode is being recorded on Thursday, February 28th, 2019. Today's episode of the podcast is another bonus podcast. Last week, we passed 5,000 followers on Twitter, and as a reward to the listeners for being such great supports, I said that I'd release 2 bonus podcasts that aren't necessarily related to technology. So this is the second of those podcasts. The first one was 2 days ago on February 26th, so if you haven't heard that one, make sure you check that one out. These bonus podcasts are going to be a little bit shorter, about the 15 to 20 minute range, but I was pleasantly surprised by the great feedback from the first podcast, and so I'm looking forward to sharing this next one with you. Again, this won't be technology related, but it will have something to do with, I think, the mindset that's required for technologists like the last one. And the title for today's podcast is Refusing to be Mediocre in Information Technology. And while this is geared towards the mindset of technology, I think it kind of plays well with pretty much just life in general. Obviously, just like the last podcast, this is my insights from, my personal experiences and my professional experiences. So this won't work for everyone, but this is what's worked for me. And as I've said, I've had great feedback so far from that last episode, which was really kind of heartwarming. Hit me right in the feels, man! But seriously, I was a little hesitant to release that just because it wasn't a technology related, and this is a technology podcast, but, it's good to know we have common ground in some areas. And just for any new or first-time listeners who don't understand my background, I have 20 plus years in the IT world, mostly in the enterprise, and I've been lucky enough to spend some time in over 100 enterprise environments as a consultant. So hopefully that just gives you a little bit more information that helps you understand my mindset and my frame of mind whenever I'm talking here. If not, that's cool too. Judge away, Judgy McJudgerson. I kid, or do I? In all seriousness, let's get down to business. So, refusing to be mediocre in IT. It's human nature to enter a comfort zone. Most people don't wake up one morning and make the conscious decision to be mediocre. It just happens over time. In IT, this condition can be even easier to fall into. When you show up to the office and fight the same issues and put out the same fires day in and day out, it can become daunting. Most people who worked at least a few years in IT can relate to this, and it can be a vicious cycle. And I have no doubt that there are many out there living that same cycle now. We've all been there. If you've been in IT for any extended period of time, we've all been there. You show up each day and you're just treading water and you're just putting out the same fires and you never get to be proactive and you never get to the root cause of issues. You literally just have to respond to who's screaming the loudest. People are running around like chickens with their heads cut off, and it just, I've been there. It gets better. It gets better. Hopefully? It's tough. Because I don't want to make too much light of it, because I know some of you out there are truly suffering and going through this. But at the same time, laughter is the only way you ever really get through it. So we're not laughing at you, we're laughing with you, and we feel for you, really, really feel for you. But it gets better. But I can promise you, if you want it to, and if you work hard enough and you do the right things, it will get better. You shall rise above the corporate BS and bureaucracy. I have faith in you. Your revolution will be televised. But on a serious note, how does one fight to stay out or climb out of their comfort zone? I feel if you find yourself in that sort of situation, I believe it is extremely important to have a good friend and or family that can call you out on your BS. Simply put, you need people in your life that will always challenge you, which especially includes people comfortable enough to call you out when you're not doing what you need to be doing. Again, most of the time that people enter their comfort zone, it's not because they're lazy or because they're not left wanting more. It's because they've been beaten down, or like people are holding them down, or people have their foot on their neck as they're on the ground. We've all have our own crosses we have to bear. We've all been there. Nobody's life is perfect. Everybody has their struggles. Why do we fall, Master Bruce? So we can pick ourselves back up.
Why do we fall, sir? So that we can learn to pick ourselves up.
Alright, I may have just had the worst Michael Caine impression of all time. Oh, wow. I recorded that and I was like, I'm going to delete that. And I'm like, no, I shall live with my embarrassment. But back to my point before I was sidetracked like a toddler watching Pepe Pig. Surrounding yourself with people that will challenge you will keep you on your toes and keep pushing you forward, even when work is trying to keep you down. Think of these people as your personal trainer for your career, screaming for you to do one more set on the bench press when you think you can't go any further. When you have people comfortable enough with you and who care enough for you to hold you accountable, it makes all the difference in the world. And beyond that, make goals and hold yourself accountable so that you can move forward, inch by inch if you have to. Progress, even small, inevitably leads to momentum. New York Times bestselling author Jim Collins has this to say: "Those who build and perpetuate mediocrity are motivated more by the fear of being left behind." He said this in his fantastic book, Good to Great: Why Some Companies Make the Leap and Others Don't. And if you check the show notes, I left a link to this book. I highly recommend it for anyone who's interested in improving their personal life and their business life. So now we've discussed kind of giving the finger to the comfort zone. Some may ask, why would we even worry about the comfort zone? And this is kind of where the discussion diverts a little bit towards information technology. And this may be an unpopular opinion, but if you work in IT, you have a moral obligation to provide the best support you can to your customers, while also doing everything in your power to protect their data and interests. Some people may disagree with that, but I personally, that's my top priority in business as I wake up every day. In IT, my customers are my livelihood. If my customers aren't happy, if my customers aren't protected, I'm not doing my job. And in IT, generally your customers are your coworkers, people who work with you at the company. Not every time. There's some of us who do work with external customers, but regardless of their internal or external, think of them as one and the same. You should treat your internal coworkers that you support exactly as you would a customer that hands you money at the end of the month. Because without your coworkers' need for you, you wouldn't be there. So they are your customer. Just get in that mindset. Get into it really early on. And some of you who work in big enterprises, you already understand this because you have things like cost codes. So you charge time to different people whenever they actually utilize your services. So you may have a better understanding of where I'm coming from. I think the message should still be loud and clear. In IT, your customers are those who utilize and use your technologies. Now, some may call this a reach, but I disagree on several counts. Just imagine how many people's lives have been adversely affected due to failures in IT systems. How many businesses and financial institutions have been wrecked due to outages, downtimes, and hacks? How many billions of dollars are lost each year to preventable catastrophes? Most of the time, that happens because people were negligent. People were negligent. Whenever you're mediocre and things go wrong, you are negligent. You are guilty. You may not lose your job and you may not get arrested and people may not point the finger at you, but that doesn't change the truth that if you would have done everything you could have done, that breach may not have happened. That system crash may not have happened. If you're doing what you should be doing, you should be covering all bases. People put their trust in you. They don't knowingly do it a lot of times. They don't understand the technologies, but you need to own that whether they understand that or not. And to me, that's what makes the difference between a great technologist and just a terrible person that I would never want on my team. To me, this is no different than being a heavy equipment operator and coming to work drunk, or not being careful and running over someone's foot and breaking their foot and they spend 6 months in a cast. It's like that because people's lives are wrecked due to system outages at work, due to system crashes, due to system breaches. What we do with technology affects people's lives. And if you are even just a help desk technician saying, I'm just answering this lady's call who calls and she has trouble with her email, you don't know what she's going through. You don't know what's happening because she's spending time on the phone. You don't know. You don't know the possibilities. Never roll those dice. Plus, if you get that mindset early in your career, whenever your decisions don't have so much weight, if and when you make your way up the ranks and your decisions do have weight, you're going to likely fail catastrophically. And people's lives will eventually be affected. And if you have a family with children who depend on you and you get laid off, who knows what could happen? I mean, this is a little deep, but I'm just trying to make people understand that you should just approach life and technology. When you go to work every day, you need to make sure your crap is in order. And I understand that there are many of you who have inept management above you and who have inept leadership people above you, or lack of funding or anything like that. Do your best. And when you're doing your best, document everything you do. Whenever you tell someone that something's wrong, document it. Send an email chain, do something. Because whenever you go to bed at night, hopefully you can lay your head on the pillow and say, I did everything I could do. And remember the Venn diagram I talked about last bonus episode? Things you can control, things that matter, and the little sliver in the middle are the things you should focus on. It's the same thing whenever you're at the office. The things that matter and things you control. You can't control if management's not doing their job, but what you can do is do everything you do to make sure you're limiting their negligence and or documenting their negligence in case things do go wrong. And generally, if you approach things the right way, you can make a difference. Obviously, that's not always going to be the case. There are a lot of companies out there that aren't run very well. And so in that case, I hopefully you live in an area and or you have the ability to find a place that will appreciate your due diligence. Until then, you really don't have an excuse, even if they're not doing it. Again, people's livelihoods generally depend on the technologies we support. So take ownership of the fact that even if your environment sucks, that your work matters, not just to the bottom line, but to people and their lives. In IT, when you're in a comfort zone, you're not operating at your maximum potential, nor is your environment. Technology never sleeps, and it evolves daily, which means that you must strive further to keep pace. If you don't, you're not only letting yourself down, but you could very well be letting down the very people and customers that rely on the systems and services that you provide. Again, I know I've been there, and I'm trying to chastise. I'm just trying to elevate it to the seriousness that I think it is. Because people who do go to work in the technology positions and don't take it seriously, there can be some serious ramifications from that. And I've seen that in my own personal life. I'm from Houston. I'm from the city of Enron, all right? People not doing their due diligence has cost my city tens of billions of dollars. And it took my city a long time to recover. And I've seen it even in the work environments that I've worked in. And yes, there are the greedy businesses where the executives still get their payday while everybody else gets laid off, but that should not affect you and your decision to just do the right thing. At the end of the day, it comes down to doing the right thing. And many times, especially in junior roles, you may feel powerless in such situations. However, you are not. You can always rise above and set the tone, and you could be the spark that ignites that firestorm of rejuvenation and improvements throughout your work environment. If you put in the extra effort and lead the charge, your hard work could very well pay off, and others would follow your lead. But before they do, you have to be the first to dance. And I say first to dance because there's a tremendous video that went viral in the late 2000s about a guy dancing by himself at the Sasquatch Music Festival in Washington State. And it's a brilliant video that talks about our tribal mindset and how we look for leaders. And I think it translates perfectly to being a leader. Even if you're not a leader of men, you can be a leader of ideals. And to me, in the work environment, that is leading by example, doing the right thing, going the extra mile, making sure your customers are taken care of. And so with that, Derek Silvers delivered a TED Talk on how to start a movement. And the key points are fantastic advice for those looking to change or revitalize their atrophied corporate IT departments. He says that a leader needs guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. And that surprisingly, the turning point is just the second follower. The second follower confirms to the rest of the pack that the movement started by the leader and confirmed by the first follower was trustworthy. The first follower also shows leadership skills by taking the initiative to join the first nut. And in this case, the nut is the crazy guy who's dancing by himself. And so we're going to listen to this short little TED Talk from Derek Silvers here. Just picture a guy shirtlessly dancing on a hill all by himself on a bright sunny day. And then people slowly coming and dancing with him. And by the end of it, it's a total madhouse. And again, the original video plus Derek Silvers' talk about the video are in the show notes, and I hope you go check it out. But here it is. Derek Silvers, How to Start a Movement.
So ladies and gentlemen, at TED we talk a lot about leadership and how to make a movement. So let's watch a movement happen, start to finish, in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons from it. First, of course you know, a leader needs the guts to stand out and be ridiculed. But what he's doing is so easy to follow. So here's his first follower with a crucial role. He's going to show everyone else how to follow. Now notice that the leader embraces him as an equal. So now it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Now there he is calling to his friends. Now if you notice that the first follower is actually an underestimated form of leadership in itself. It takes guts to stand out like that. The first follower is what transforms a lone nut into a leader. And here comes a second follower. Now it's not a lone nut, it's not two nuts, 3 is a crowd, and a crowd is news. So a movement must be public. It's important to show not just the leader, but the followers, because you find that new followers emulate the followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, and immediately after, 3 more people. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point. Now we've got a movement. So notice that as more people join in, it's less risky. So those that were sitting on the fence before now have no reason not to. They won't stand out. They won't be ridiculed, but they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. So over the next minute, you'll see all of the those that prefer to stick with the crowd, because eventually they would be ridiculed for not joining in. And that's how you make a movement. But let's recap some lessons from this. So first, if you are the type, like the shirtless dancing guy, that is standing alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals. So it's clearly about the movement, not you. Okay, but we might have missed the real lesson here. The biggest lesson, if you noticed, did you catch it? Is that leadership is over-glorified. That yes, it was the shirtless guy was first, and he'll get all the credit, but it was really the first follower that transformed the lone nut into a leader. So as we're told that we should all be leaders, that would be really ineffective. If you really care about starting a movement, have the courage to follow and show others how to follow. And when you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first one to stand up and join in. And what a perfect place to do that, TED. Thanks.
And so again, I really encourage you to go watch that video. It's fantastic. You know, there's a couple things to take from what Derek Silver says here, right? Have the guts to be the leader, but true leaders never really want to be leaders, right? Most of the greatest leaders the worlds have ever seen have been reluctant leaders, and they've made it about the movement and not about themselves. And so you can do that in your IT job, even if you're working in a place that's terrible, even if you're working at a team that sucks, you can still be that type of person. And trust me, if you do that, you'll be much happier than if you just go to work and you sulk every single day. And you never know, there may be that first nut that follows you, and then maybe a second nut. And then once you have 2, 3 is a crowd, and a crowd is a movement. As I said earlier, mediocrity isn't always your fault. Many times you may receive pushback when you try to rise above being mediocre. You may be told that you're overstepping your bounds or that you're offending others with your initiative. One thing is certain, trying to rise above mediocrity will likely make you unpopular. If not with management, then with some of your peers who are all too comfortable with the status quo. The only real advice I can provide you here is if your leadership doesn't appreciate the work you do and the change you're trying to drive, move on if it's possible. Life is too short to work for a company that doesn't support you or your vision, and you will no doubt come across resistance at some point in your career. And sometimes the best thing for all parties involved would be to find another place to work. If you try to succeed and are held back, you have to take control of your career. Again, I realize that some people really don't have that option many times because of where they live or personal circumstances. But you only have so much time on this pale blue dot. Do you really want to be miserable at work for 40 plus hours a week? The way I tell people all the time is you spend more time with your coworkers than you do your family. And if you don't get along with your coworkers and you do everything you can do you really want to live that life? You know, and that's the beauty of technology is it's the great equalizer. It gives the less fortunate the legs to stand up on. It gives the weak a fighting chance. It gives the voiceless a resounding roar. If you don't have options, you do have options, because one thing we've talked about in this podcast are Microsoft's free training options. You can rise up. It won't be easy and you're going to struggle and it's going to be hard, but I know you can do it. You have to have faith in yourself, and I know you can do it. And the most important thing is you deserve the career that you want. You deserve everything that you dream for. We all do, but you have to go get it and you have to take it. And if you let people walk all over you, they will. We're a greedy species. We always have been and we always will be. And truthfully, for me, the greatest reward is I sleep soundly at night when I'm doing my best to ensure my customers are provided with the absolute best service and support they can receive. I truly have a moral dilemma that affects my personal life when I know that there are critical issues that should be rectified yet remain due to internal politics or ineptitude. Atrophy accelerates as time goes on. So if things aren't working out today and you can't gain any momentum no matter how hard you try, then they'll likely be worse further down the line. It is up to you to decide if fighting against mediocrity or if moving on is the best for you long term. I just know for me, if I'm not happy with work, I can't be happy in life. You may be able to compartmentalize, You are a tougher person than I am. And so God bless you, you lucky SOB. You know, there are people that can go to work and just do the job and go home and just turn it off. And I think they're some of the luckiest people in the world. But then I think at the same time, the struggles that people like myself go through, what we feel whenever things do go right, it makes it all worthwhile. And so you can struggle for years, but that first time it goes right, boom, that's what you've been working for. But you have to remember, if you are those people that can shut it off and that can compartmentalize, to me, you have a moral obligation to make sure that the technology that you're providing is where it needs to be. Because again, people's livelihoods can be affected, and every day they are affected. Countless people's lives have been ruined because of failures in technology. And I hope that if you're listening to this, you're not the type of person that can live with that on your conscience by letting that happen, by knowing that you didn't do everything that you could do. And so all I can really say beyond that is you have to trust the process. What you do with your career is your choice. And while I can't tell you what to do, I can tell you what has been great for me. And for me, refusing to be mediocre while also being steadfast to my moral obligations and duties have made me extremely happy with my career choices for nearly 2 decades. And while some may look at my resume and wonder why or how or disagree with my decisions, hopefully we can at least find common ground in the fact that you spend at least 1/3 of your life at your job. So why not do your best and make sure that you're leading from the front? Be that first nut. Take charge and dictate how you work and show others there is a better way. And you don't have to be confrontational. You can do it in a respectful manner. And I guarantee you, if you just take that and you carry that flag, you're going to love it. Because I don't know how many times I've had customers tell me, I can't believe you were able to do that. I've never been able to have someone help me. Nobody's ever gone that far. Each one of those is worth countless bad calls or countless bad scenarios. When you make a lasting impression to someone, they're going to remember you. When we're dead and gone, all that's left is our legacy. And our legacy can either be, my job sucks. You literally just clock in at 8 to 5 and you go home. Or you can try to make the world a little better place while you're there. It's up to you. But one thing is for certain, don't let the haters get you down.
He's peanut butter and jealous.
He's not jealous.
They hate us because they ain't us.
They hate us because we ain't us?
They hate us because they ain't us.
That's not what it is.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Hate us because they ain't us.
They don't hate us because they ain't us. They don't hate us because
I'm
they ain't
used
us.
to it. They hate us because they ain't us.
Stop it. Stop it. Don't say it again.
Haters gonna hate. And ain'ters gonna ain't.
That is not an actual thing people say.
This is what you do to haters. You just smile.
That's right, you heard it here first. Haters gonna hate, and ain'ters gonna ain't. I can't help but laugh every time I hear that. It took some crazy editing to remove the swear words from that so we could stay clean, but I was able to do it. The funny thing is that movie scene is from The Interview. And The Interview is the movie that kicked off North Korea hacking Sony. And so it kind of plays into our whole don't be mediocre in technology, right? Sony had some folks within their IT department that didn't do their job and they were hacked because of this movie. And many people were outed and hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue were lost because of that Sony hack. So I thought it would be kind of fitting to have a quote from the movie The Interview, which resulted in a hack from IT folks not doing their due diligence. That kind of gets us back, go a little full circle here. And I'm not saying your due diligence needs to include the ability to defeat a rogue state. At least it plays well for comedic effect. So I think now's as good of a time to start wrapping things up. And I just want to close with this. Gone are the days of working 20 plus years for the same company. The future of business is evolving faster than ever thanks to technology and automation. So keep evolving along with it and refuse to be mediocre, all while leading by example and taking charge of where you and your team goes from here. Even if you are a manager or a team lead, you can lead by example. And all you need is that first follower to start the movement. So what in the heck are you waiting for? Grab your partner and do-si-do. And yeah. I just quoted square dancing. Sorry, it's rodeo time here in Houston, so yeehaw! Dear God, I know I'm gonna regret that. Alright guys, hopefully you liked our second bonus podcast for our 5,000 Twitter follower reward. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for being a part of this wacky charade I have going on. I can't believe thousands of you are listening to me. I don't know why, but I thank you for doing so anyways. Literally, I'm a guy that just quoted square dancing and a movie that says peanut butter and jealous. What are you doing with your lives? I'm kidding. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. All I ask if you did is two things. Please subscribe to the podcast, and please tell someone who you think will like this podcast to listen and subscribe. And for those who would like to help this podcast happen more often, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Patreon is a way that you can monetarily support the podcast and help me pay for an editor. Editing takes about 5 times more than it does to record an episode. So if I can have enough money to hire a full-time editor, I can make much more content. And trust me, that's what I want to do. I hate editing. No, get this. Just think, if we had an editor, he could edit out my do-si-do comments without me even knowing. And that's reward enough, I would think, for you to head to patreon.com/msft today. And I'm planning to do one more podcast this weekend for the week, and we are trying to get some interviews lined up for next week and the week after. So look for interviews coming up soon. And this weekend, I am also releasing a how-to video on our YouTube channel. So head to YouTube and search for Microsoft Today. And with that, stick a giant fork in us. We are done. So until next time, guys, remember to spiral out. Keep going.
From Milan,